like flu times 100. And, I have had flu vaccines in my time. So yeah, those have been some of the treatments that I've had. There are other treatments for people with sickle cell. You can have bone marrow stem cell treatment. At one time, I remember my consultant, hematologist, that is, he recommended a drug treatment, a new trial. This was several years back, maybe about 5 years ago. And I think it was for a drug called hydroxia or something like that. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but I do think that's what it's called. I don't remember. I don't remember the sort of ins and outs of it, but I know that at that time, when it was suggested, I did my research, I did my reading around it, and I decided that I would not, take that treatment. Because, well, I think it was because of the side effects of the drug at that time. I don't remember what they are, unfortunately, now off the top of my head. I will look into it for a later discussion, but yeah, I decided that at that time it wouldn't be the best way forward for me. I have never really been a person who has been comfortable with taking a lot of medication. So I have always tried to limit the amount of medication that I take at any given time. I do take vitamin D and things like that. So that's something I'm prescribed that I have to take daily now as well. Vitamin D, folic acid. I was able to get to a point where I was signed, my hematologist allowed me to stop the daily dose of what is that thing now? Yeah, of the antibiotics that I was taking. And now I only take it as and when I need it, because I didn't want to build up a resistance to it as well, because I think that's another thing that we have to be aware of, that once you take these medications for a certain amount of time, your body eventually just builds up a resistance to them, and they don't even work effectively anymore. So, but then don't quote me on that, please. If you are a medical student or a biology A level something, please don't use me for your dissertation or your essay. Well, you can use me as just a sort of extra source of, but I can't, I don't know if everything I'm saying is factually, scientifically correct. But, I have had many discussions with medical practitioners, and they have informed me and said that yes, your body does build up a resistance to certain medications. So which is why I believe my hematologist allowed me to stop the daily dose, but I get prescribed them as and when I need them of antibiotics. So yeah, there's hydroxia that I decided not to take. There is also the stem cell, but it's quite an intense treatment, so it's not something that I felt that I needed to have. And also, there's no guarantee that it necessarily works. I think people who have gone for that option of that treatment, it's probably because their experience with sickle cell has been like death door extreme, like so extreme, their pain and their time spent in hospital and things like that, that what they've opted for was to have the bone marrow treatment to lessen the effects of their pain and their hospitalizations and so on and so forth, like that whole sort of process. But I don't think that it actually cures sickle cell. So I never felt that I was at a place where I needed to have that. Moving on to hip replacement. I'm dropping this in there because there was a time when it was thought that I would need hip replacement surgery. I went through this phase where my left, was it my left? Yeah, I think it was my left hip joint. I was in this period of time, it was my left hip joint and my lower back. I would experience frightful, I have to describe it as frightful. I would experience severe pain, debilitating pain, where I would wake up in the morning and I wouldn't be able to get out of bed. Like, that's how painful it was. So somehow, miraculously, it seemed to rectify itself. This was over about a 2-year period. And then by the end of that period, it just seemed to fix itself. But during that time, there was a lot of discussion about having hip replacement surgery. Also, as another form of treatment, is what do you call that thing again? My mind's gone blank. Oh yeah, blood transfusions. Yes, blood or exchange transfusions. So there's a difference. You can have a full pints of blood, put into you, or you can have some of your blood extracted and more blood placed into you. There's sort of 2 different styles of transfusions, and I've had that as well, and I had that a lot during my pregnancy. So yeah, that's some of the symptoms and treatments, but there are so many other symptoms that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, and I'm sure as medicine progresses, hopefully there will be more treatments available. But what I will say for me, before I sign off, is that at this stage of my life, I've tried to adopt a more holistic approach to the way I treat sickle cell. And if I find that the pain is not going, then I would probably opt for pain medication. So yeah, and we can talk about that, the holistic approach to sickle cell at a later stage. You have been listening to The S Word. See you soon.